Welcome. My name is Opubo Benebo. In addition to the fundamental object of staving off hunger, the farm produce of a subsistence farm is preferred to promote as well as sustain healthfulness. Consequently, a set of food crops deemed essential crops, which by contents derivable from the related biochemistry found to be comprehensively and nutritionally well-balanced feeding, has been judiciously selected as the crops for farming under the Farming for Food program. The farming activity has accordingly been necessarily constrained by the selection from among the crops that had been chosen as the essential crops, and the farming activities about each food crop has been presented, bringing the consideration now to the planting of sweet yellow potatoes. This category of potato is particularly significant for the contents of vitamins, minerals, phytonutrients the human body gains from their assimilation. Phytonutrients being special plant-produced chemicals that impart immunity as well as provision antioxidants. Granted, bitter leaf also provides many minerals. However, the body works well with coenzymes which work with the enzymes or biocatalysts to perform the myriad sequential metabolic reactions. The non-mineral components of these coenzymes are the well-known vitamins. So when vitamins are ingested, they combine with various minerals in the body to form the coenzymes. Notably, bitter leaf supplies minerals. Hence, availing the body with the nutrients of sweet yellow potato creates the context for the production of the coenzyme needs of the body, and consequentially, the healthfulness as is the implicit object of subsistence farming. Planting sweet yellow potato is also particularly interesting in that, unlike other crops, there exists the option of farming that actually enables performing production volume planning as would a product of manufacture. So there is the approach to operate under conditions that yield a set target of volume of farm produce harvest. In synopsis then, this episode entitled Planting Essential Crops Sweet Yellow Potato offers guidance to the planting of sweet yellow potatoes, the approach to planting that perform production volume planning, and hence preference-defined bountiful harvest, the construction of the planting activities, and general implementation of the sweet yellow potato farming-specific process automation control. The driver rationale guiding farming the essential crop sweet yellow potato is to ensure localized unitary harvesting in which the harvesting of farm produce of single plant does not impact the other plant tubers, and as such ensures managed harvesting in accordance with prevailing need for feeding. In effect, tubers can be let to grow for as big as possible until harvested, being not impacted by prior harvesting. Certain common practices, however, apply to the planting of sweet yellow potato that needs recognizing. The plant, being endemic of tropics, grows well in temperatures between 20 degrees centigrade and 29 or 68 and 80 for optimal growth. So irrespective of the region of the world, it is best to consider planting the sweet yellow potato when the temperature is moderately high, say 73 degrees, but not extreme cold and not extreme heat. Unlike the previous products that we opted to use seeds, at least for the need to satisfy custom border control laws, this is not the case here, as potato exists in just about every country, with the variations being limited to the contents of phytonutrients. But these can be implemented by other means endemic to the society based on its type of potato. So the planting of a potato will be based on the planting of fully grown harvested potato. Indeed, so a potato suited for meal will be used up. But The one potato stands to yield as many more potatoes as the production volume as set to be harvested. As always, the planting activity starts with preparing the ridge for the planting. At about 2 inches from one end of the ridge, a 1 foot diameter by 6 inches hole is scooped out and then refilled with biofertilizers and watered wet and then left overnight. Coming on now to the onset of the planting, at about 24 hours later, on the following day, one potato is placed lengthwise on the top circular surface, diametrically on the surface on the circle, and then shoved down until only half the body is above the surface of the biofertilizer surface. After about a week, the potato will sprout leaves and several small stems called slips growth occur. These slips, when grown to about 6 inches in length, are carefully cut off from the body of the potato as the young stems to be planted for new potatoes. Optionally, these slips may be directly planted in the ridge soil or planted into a soil in a container to await root growth, or just inserted in water, again to await growth of several roots just shooting out at the base below the water surface in like spindles. Here, the adopted plant is the third option, though it comes with certain many interim additional activities. So, each slip is put into a jar of water such that about half the length is above the water surface. After about a week, the lower section starts to shoot out white spindle-like roots. Each of these spindle-like roots actually grows into a potato. So for production planning, these roots of each slip are counted and summed over all the slips to evaluate the potential production volume, and the evaluation is repeated daily until the sum total agrees with the preferential production volume, at which time the planting of the slips into the ground is set to start in earnest. Again, the first task is the preparation of the rest of the soil of the ridge on which the potato slips were grown on the seeding potato. At spacing of 1.5 feet apart, a 1 foot diameter by 5 inches hole is scooped out and refilled with biofertilizers. At the axial top of each of the biofertilizers filling, a 4 inches deep hole by 4 inches diameter which most decidedly be longer than the length of the spindle-like root, is scooped out and the slip inserted and then covered up with the biofertilizers removed while making the planting hole. Obviously, each slip is planted such that disc-like growth formation to obtain. The spindle-like roots grow radially outwards from the slip stem to an anticipated maximum of 6 inches and remain with a vertical height space of about 4 inches. Indeed, because the tubers are anticipated to grow radially outwards from the slip stem, informed the 1.5 feet apart spacing. This spacing allows for 6 inches spacing between each growth domain of the 1 foot diameter hole reserved for each plant, but also allows adequate ventilation. The biofertilizers filled hole and the surroundings are watered very wet. The plant and soil are therefore very lightly watered, perhaps weekly. Although most of the water drains off down into the ground and the soil becomes somewhat dry, yet it also remains sort of humid, such that the biologics of the biofertilizers are encapsulated with water matter, but with the interspaces or pores actually dry. In any case, this state of wetness is the object in this circumstance to be established. As even while the soil seems dry, as suited to the growth of sweet yellow potatoes, yet provisions a wet context for the tubers. after the slips grow out of the surface of the earth, slight behavior of phototropism on bending towards the direction of morning sunlight will be perceptible. So a design as built to inhibit the heliotropism, as in episode 12, restricting tropisms, is also implemented, though in this case not explicitly for heliotropism, but more for ensuring incidence of sunlight directly on the plant from vertically above. The plants, however, are vine and so crawls all over the ground and is suggested to be trellised. So after the slip plant grows up to 6 inches above ground, a peg to which a rope is tied is stuck into the ground, and the rope lightly wrapped around the stem of the slips and then tied to object above. The slips should then wound around the rope, climbing upwards as the slip continues to grow. This is important so that the vine does not crawl on the soil surface and try to produce secondary produce and therefore take away from the size of the tubers actually planted for the harvesting. The sweet yellow potato farming specific dynamic consists of the light irradiation routine and the watering routine, and with the dynamics of these two routines both defining the specifications and hence adopted to guide the implementation of the crop-specific farming process automation control mechanism, as in episode 10, Farm Process Automation Controllers. Again, PLC programs are implemented to auto-manage the plant's watering and sunlight irradiation routines as established. The routine as auto-performed is simply checked often to ensure non-interruption, and the sweet yellow potato farming operations left alone for a minimum of about 3 months, being the time span of the growth process. Sometime after about 3 months, the leaves begin to turn yellow, signaling readiness for harvest. At harvesting, few mere hand scrapings of the biofertilizer surface readily exposes the potato tubers as spread around the center of the disc growth format. The biofertilizers are scraped off the roof, the stem shaken a little bit and simply pulled upwards and readily leaves out from the soil. Curing the potato is essential though for long shelf storage, which is possible with the thickening of the skin and so prevent easy rotting. So after the harvest, the potatoes are spread out on a shelf in single layers in a dark space of cool temperature, say 45 degrees to 60 degrees, and humidity of 80% to 90% for a span of 2 weeks. The harvesting is effectively complete after the curing of the potato of the farm produce. The conclusion that could be drawn here is that structured farming of the sweet yellow potato of the essential crop chosen for subsistence farming can be performed anywhere in the world based on the type of potato available to the society, and hence be effectively available to all citizens in the world, such that hunger may be stemmed. Although not explicitly stated though, the biofertilizer's quality could yet have been improved significantly with the augmentation with pineapple skins puree with high zinc contents that provides unmatched protection to the plants while keeping the tubers very healthful. And it is a wrap. And on that note, I say to you, thank you so much for having come to listen to this observation about efforts aimed at alleviating world hunger through subsistence farming by both urban dweller farmers and emerging countries' small farmers. You are truly appreciated, and if you would like to get privileged viewer-reader information, access podcasts of specialized contents, or access even vertically integrated concepts, then I implore you to join my support club and enjoy that privilege status. Moreover, while still here, do please take a moment and subscribe to the channel as to be informed of the publication of every new episode as soon as it is published. Thank you. Bye. Till next episode.